I don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, as my dad used to say. I don't want to spread myself too thin that I can't be specific about what I do.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Last week on this very program, we talked about should you be hiring during a slowdown. This week, I want to talk about should you be looking for other work during a slowdown. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by Alamode Software. Alamode is the leader in appraisal writing software across the world. They can be the leader in your software in your office and should be. Alamode.com or 800 Alamode. Working RE Magazine, keeping appraisers informed as to what is going on in their world, your chosen world of appraisal. WorkingRE.com, Working RE is in real estate.com. Folks, it is no secret. Across the country, we have seen a bit of a slowdown when it comes to the lending sector. And as a consequence, there's a bit of a slowdown, if you will. And I know some of you are saying, a bit? What are you talking about, Dustin? I'm down 50%, I'm down 40%, I'm down 30%. Some of you don't know how much you're down. Some of you don't know your numbers, and that's a whole other podcast for a whole other day, and something we've talked about frequently on here, right? If you don't know your numbers, folks, you don't know your business. How down are you? Are you down? Are you doing the same kind of business that you're doing last year? I have several mastermind students, several coaching clients that are actually up during a slow time. Why? Well, because of some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But the question on the table might be a little bit misleading. The title might be a little bit misleading, because the answer to the question is, should you be looking for other work during a slowdown? The answer is absolutely yes. When it comes to appraisal work, right? Whether it be private work or other work that you haven't done before. I want to talk a little bit about that before the break, but after the break, I want to talk to you about the big question on the table. Should you be looking for other work outside the appraisal world, maybe even outside the real estate world? I know a lot of you are thinking about that right now. Do I want to continue in this business? Maybe I should be doing something different. Let's first talk about the first question on the table, the one that you probably thought this episode was all about. Should you be looking for work within the appraisal sector? Of course you should, folks. I am a big believer, always have been, in leaving all options open. Now, I don't want to be foolish about it. I don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, as my dad used to say. I don't want to spread myself too thin that I can't be specific about what I do. There's an old analogy that is told, and you've probably heard the analogy of the rabbits. And the analogy goes something like this. If you're going to go out and hunt rabbits and you walk into a field and you suddenly step on a branch that makes a loud noise, and all of a sudden it seems from every bush in that field jumps out a jackrabbit. And they're running here and they're running there, and you lower your gun, you get ready to shoot your dinner for the night. And there's so many rabbits running all over that field that you can't make up your mind. Well, maybe I should shoot that one. Oh, no, there's a better one over there. Oh, there's a bigger one over there. And you get so busy aiming that you forget to pull the trigger. And of course, the analogy is pick one. It's never going to be the perfect one, but pick one. Find the rabbit that you're going to focus on, and don't worry about what's going on in the peripheral. You'll still see jackrabbits jumping all around the field, but choose one. And it may not be the biggest, and it may not be the tastiest, and it may not be the prettiest, but choose one and focus on that. Otherwise, you end up missing them all. Well, the same is true about business. Folks, you can be so spread thin that you're doing all kinds of work for all kinds of clients. And I know some of you are saying, well, Dustin, that's not such a bad thing. Well, maybe it is. Maybe you're so unfocused that you can't niche out. You're so unfocused that you can't really do your work properly. So I'm not a big fan of spreading yourself too thin. But I would say that appraisal in general is a rabbit. Right? Now, there's different aspects of that. Maybe you are one that does manufactured homes. Maybe you're one that does relocation work. Maybe you're one that does the oddball type properties, right? Maybe you focus on land. Maybe you focus on the types of loans people are getting. Maybe it's just refis for you. That's what you want to focus on. You don't want to do, and I've heard it all, folks. There's all kinds of you out there. I've heard people say, I absolutely will never do a drive-by. I absolutely will never do a desktop. I absolutely will never do a purchase in an increasing market, right? I just don't want to deal with the fact that I may not, quote unquote, come in at purchase price. I don't want to deal with that. And so my kudos to you, folks. My hat goes off to individuals who are willing and able to make decisions like that and not feel like they're pressured into doing whatever because whatever is out there. That being said, I'm a big believer in keeping your options open. For example, several years ago, I was introduced to ERC work, relocation work. And at the time, I was not all that interested. Someone told me, well, you got to do a projected value. I'm like, projected value? What the freak is that? And I don't even want to. No, I'm plenty busy, right? Even when I was busy, I stepped back and I said, Dustin, you're not going to be busy forever. Dustin, there will come a time when things will slow down for you. Dustin, maybe you need to step back a little bit and say, hey, maybe I need to leave myself open to other things. And so guess what, folks? I took a relocation class. In fact, I took two of them, one in person, one online. I found a mentor, somebody who had done relocation work before, reached out to that individual, asked them if they would help me through the first one or two. They did. I paid them, by the way. And I was able to start doing ERC work, relocation work. Now, over the years, I don't know, I'm just doing this off the cuff, but over the years, I would say that decision has probably made me, and I'm talking net, not gross, has probably netted me, well, at least $10,000 and probably less than $50,000. So somewhere in there, if I really sat down and looked at the numbers, I would guess that the number of relocation appraisals that I've done over the years, and I've been doing it over a decade now, probably adds up in that world. Now, one of the things about relocation appraisals is because they are so different, there's many appraisers who don't do them, who don't want to do them, and as a consequence, and by the way, they are a little bit more work. Okay, especially because they're a little bit outside the norm. You got to step back and go, wait a second, I'm doing projected value here. I'm not doing market value. How do I do this again? I would say that the payment for those is a lot of times twice what a typical appraisal would be, but usually at least 150% of what a normal appraisal would be. Okay. Now the dollars per hour, do they work out? Again, that's something you've got to decide for yourself. And today's episode is not just about relocation appraisals, but that is an example, folks, of branching out. I'll give you another example. When I first started in this business, my mentor, my dad, was very wise, and he said, I don't ever turn down an appraisal. I might price myself out, but I don't say I don't want to do that appraisal. I'm not going to do that appraisal. I'm turning it down. I might ask for a much higher fee, but I want to be known as the appraiser who will do anything. By the way, when I started out, it was not the market that we saw in 2006. It was not the market that we saw in 2020. It was not the market that some of us have been used to. Were we struggling? No, we weren't in a recession. We weren't in a depression. But when I first started out in 1996, 1997, right, I had to hustle. I had to get out there and find that work, and I had to keep my clients happy because I didn't have work coming out my ears. And this idea that I want to be the go-to appraiser so that when a mortgage company, back then most of the work that I did were with local mortgage companies, right? There's a few of those left out there today. But I want to be the appraiser that no matter what the assignment, they know they can call Dustin Harris and he'll do it. Now, he might charge more for it, but he will do it. And therefore, I'm going to send all of my work to him because he can do FHA. He can do manufactured homes. He can do geodesic domes. He can do whatever's on the table. He can do the standard tract house as well. And I got those as well because I was willing to do the extra stuff. So the answer to the question on the table, should you be looking for other work during a slowdown? Absolutely. Those of you who think it is too late to get out there and get private work, for example. Well, everybody's going to be doing that, Dustin. Everybody's going to be applying to the VA, Dustin. Okay, maybe. But folks, don't step back and say everybody's doing it, therefore I'm not going to do it, be your answer. It is not too late. Yes, you should have dug your well when you weren't thirsty, and now you're a little bit thirsty. Well, you still should dig your well, folks, because you're going to get thirstier if you don't. Now, I'm not predicting that things are going to slow down even more. Don't read too much into that statement. My point is this. The market is cyclical. The market goes up, the market goes down. And each of us should step back, myself included, even though I've branched out in many ways, I constantly am stepping back and say, is there more? Is there more that I could be doing? The other day, and I'm not going to share with you what it was because it's not been vetted yet, but the other day somebody presented to me an appraisal opportunity that I had not really thought of before. It was a little bit of a twist and a tweak on what I was used to. And I thought, I wonder if there's a niche there. This particular appraiser does this type of work, and it's a little bit different than what you're used to. And I thought, man, I wonder if I can, and this appraiser is not located in my area, by the way. And I thought, I wonder if there's a need for that in Idaho. I wonder if there's a need for that in Wyoming. I wonder if there's a need for that in Utah. Folks, I would not have learned about that opportunity if, number one, I was not willing to put myself out there and network with other appraisers and share with them, by the way, stuff that can value and be helpful to them. But furthermore, I would not have been open to that if I'm not constantly looking, if I'm not constantly having my ears to the ground. Going back to the rabbit analogy, if I'm not constantly vigilant as I walk through the field for every bush and every twitch of any nose under any blade of grass that might be a rabbit. Folks, when you look for opportunities come. Years ago, I read The Secret. I know, don't laugh at me, right? I read The Secret years ago. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. And there's a reason they didn't like it. And maybe it was just me. Maybe it's just my perception. Maybe there's more to that book that I just didn't get at the time. I'm not really willing to spend my time and effort to go back and reread it, okay, maybe to my demise. But I'll tell you what I got out of that book. I'll give you my book report, right? The idea of that book was that you wish and want for something strong enough, and that bag of gold will drop into your lap. Well, stay with me. I actually do believe there's some truth in that. But here's what I don't think the secret went far enough in, if they even mentioned it at all, and that's action. The reason that works is not because you sit in your lazy boy and you wish over and over and over again, and you look at your vision board over and over and over again about that bag of gold dropping into your lap, and all of a sudden your ceiling opens up and that's what happens. It's because if you are focused enough on that bag of gold, you're going to do what it takes to get there. When opportunities come up, you're going to say, that's a stepping stone toward my goal. I'm going to take that stepping stone. When distractions come up, you're going to say, that doesn't go toward my goal at all. I'm going to avoid going down that staircase because I'm moving up this one over here. That's why the secret works. That's why people get what they need and get what they want, because they're focused on it, and what you focus on becomes bigger. Now, am I digressing? I don't think so. The principle here is focus on success. Be looking and open for opportunities, and you will find them even in a down market. Speaking of opportunities, have you taken the opportunity to sign up for the free blog from Working RE Magazine? What do I mean by free? Dustin, yes, that's what I'm talking about, folks. It's free. It's FREE. Yes, it takes a couple of minutes, seconds, to put your email in after you go to workingre.com. Yes, it's one more thing in your inbox. Stay with me. Several times a week, I find stuff from Working RE that's going to benefit me. Sometimes stuff is in there that doesn't benefit me, or it's just not what I'm looking for at the time. Fine, delete it, archive it, whatever you do. But trust me, folks, you will not be sad when you sign up for the free blog from Working RE Magazine. It's Working RE as in workingrealestate.com. A la mode. Folks, I talked about my humble beginnings back in 1996. And in 1996, my dad had been using a la mode software for several years. I don't know how many, but they've been in business over 4 decades. Over 40 years they've been in business, helping appraisers and being the best software out there. Folks, I started with a la mode. I've used the others out there. Yes, I have. That's another story. I've used it. Folks, I'm telling you, a la mode's the best. There's a reason that they lead the industry. Check it out. If you're with any other software, I implore you to just look at a la mode. alamode.com or 800 a la mode. Bum, 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 bum. I love that music. Dustin Harris back on the episode. We're talking today about, well, should you be looking for other work during a slowdown? Really what I want to get to today in the remaining few minutes that we have is the bigger question, right? The idea of should you be looking for other work within the appraisal world? Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. Question is, should I be looking for other work outside appraisal and maybe even outside real estate? Folks, again, it's a no-brainer. I've been talking about it for years. There's a great book out there. Last name Allen. I don't remember the first name. David, maybe? No, he's the Getting Things Done guy. Anyway, there's a great book out there called Multiple Streams of Income. You ought to check it out, okay? And it's a great book. It's one I read many, many years ago, and I decided at the time I read the book that I was going to constantly either have streams of income coming in or at least on the back burner that I could jump into if I needed to. I've got a whole Evernote section, a whole notebook full of notes, right? So in Evernote, you have notebooks. They're like file cabinets, and then you have folders within that, okay, or files within that. I've got a whole notebook full of entrepreneurial ideas that if I decided to move away from appraisal or it was forced upon me, folks, I really do not fear, right? Would I have a couple of days of consternation, maybe losing some sleep? Oh crap, what am I going to do now? Well, sure, I think all of us would have that situation. But I'm constantly looking for other opportunities to grow and to develop. And when those opportunities come, I write them down. A business opportunity, an invention that I could develop, fill in the blank, right? An investment that I could be involved in. In addition to those things that I could do, there's always things that I am doing, right? This right now, coaching is something that I do in addition to appraisal. Investment, something that I do in addition to appraisal. I do some other things that I don't call them businesses, but little things on the side. I'll give you an example, right? I'm constantly on the lookout for deals on Facebook Marketplace, right? I might find a car. In fact, I'll just give you an example. My son purchased, as of this recording, last night, I helped him to go pick up a Land Rover. He doesn't want a Land Rover, doesn't need a Land Rover. He's got plenty of vehicles, but he found a really good deal. It was a situation on Facebook where a Land Rover was being listed, not drivable, okay, it's not working, for about $3,000. Now, if you know anything about Land Rovers, that year, I think it's a 2004 is what he bought, is worth between $6,000 and $9,000, at least in our area, okay, $6,000 to $9,000. He's picking it up for $3,000. Now, many of you would just gloss over, I'm not looking for a Land Rover, but my son, gives the guy a call, starts to talk to him, finds out that he doesn't know much about mechanicking, my son does, starts to ask him what the situation was. Basically, this is a truck that he bought from a dealer, and he drove it off the lot, took it to his house, parked it for about 3 months, and then it wouldn't start. Okay, now if you know anything about mechanics, right, if that's the situation, it's either electrical, but probably not, or it's fuel. Right? It's this idea that you've either, varnished your fuel or your fuel pump is blocked up. So my son went out there, took a look at it, and did a few diagnostic things and determined that 90% chance it's the fuel pump. The fuel pump, for whatever reason, is not priming, it's not working, okay? Now, that might be electrical, that might be the fuel pump itself, might be a fuel pump riser, might be a lot of different things, right? But my son is smart enough to know that this is not a major expense, right? Here's a $6,000 to $9,000 vehicle that he's picking up for $3,000 that most likely will cost him a couple of $100s in his time, and he'll be able to flip it. Now, that is one example of some of the things that my son is an entrepreneur. My son has lots of streams of income going all the time because he's constantly looking at the next big thing, right? What can I do to make a living? He is very motivated by money. He's very motivated by success. Now, some of you would say, well, he's looking at too many rabbits, but I think he's pretty wise that maybe he's not focused on one rabbit, but he's not focused on 25, okay? But the idea that you should be looking outside yourself and be looking outside the norm for what could be the case here, right? What could I be doing? I think is wise in all aspects. Now, am I saying that the market's slowing and we need to jump out and we need to do something different and we should stop being appraisers and we should, go open a coffee shop? Well, maybe I am, but not really, right? That's not what I'm saying today. What I'm saying is look for opportunities. Should you be jumping out of the appraisal world and into something else? Well, possibly. Some of you should. Some of you hate what you do. In those cases, I would highly recommend that you look to other opportunities. I had a discussion with a friend of mine over the weekend, and one of the things that he said I think was quite wise, and I will just pass it on to you as well. One of the things he said to me, he says, Dustin, it's interesting to me how often people see opportunity in front of them and they don't take advantage of it for no other reason other than they don't want to take a risk and they hate change. And really that's the same reason, right? They don't want change because they don't want the risk that comes with change. And he gave me several examples of individuals that he knew that had awesome opportunities, himself included. And not to throw his wife under the bus, but his wife is a little bit more grounding than he is, right? And he said, Dustin, I had an opportunity to buy a 5-acre parcel 3 years ago for $17,000. He said that parcel is now worth about $250,000. 3 years, $250,000. He said, I knew it was going to go up. I knew it was going to be developed. I knew it was going to be valuable, and I didn't do it because my wife said it's too risky, right? Now, I'm not asking you or encouraging you. This is not financial advice, investment advice, right? You have other experts for that kind of thing. But what I am saying to you is that you step back and you consider where you're at. Folks, whether you continue in appraisal or not, and I highly recommend that you do. Folks, don't forget this is cyclical, right? The appraisal world is not going away. We are not being replaced as some people fear. Bottom line is, appraisal is here to stay. You can and will be successful moving forward. But I hope the slowdown has encouraged you to look outside of what you're used to and consider some of the other things that you might be doing. And despite what the appraisal world does, start building one or two of them. Again, multiple streams of income. There's absolutely no reason why you can't have a successful appraisal business and a successful coffee shop or whatever it is that you're looking to do. Thank you for joining me today, folks. I would love to help you with this and more in my private coaching sessions. Reach out to me at theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Several years ago, I was introduced to ERC work, relocation work. Again, I got interrupted by a phone call. I'm going to turn this off. Back up.